Hi, I'm Brie Arthur, horticulturist, author, and avid canner. This is my canning sidekick, Miss Ava Grace. Today, I'm going to be doing a canning extravaganza. I've been harvesting tons of produce from the foodscape, and it's time to get it in the jars, sealed, and into my pantry for long-term storage. So today, I'm going to make candied jalapenos, pickled okra, 2 different varieties of tomato sauce, and a new recipe that I've just created for a semi-sweet, delicious pickle. So stay tuned to learn exactly how to make each one of these so that you can take full advantage of your abundant harvests. First step is getting your jars sterilized. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to just put them into your dishwasher and run it on a short, very hot cycle. Always set your water bath on your largest burner and turn it on to high with the lid on. That way it'll be brought to a boil more quickly. Usually it takes 20 or 25 minutes to get this to a boil, so that's perfect because this will give you an opportunity to start prepping all of the stuff that you're going to be using to put into cans. One thing to note, I already have some sauce made. So I have a delicious red sauce here that I made earlier in the week. I'm going to heat that up, and now in the meantime I'm going to go through and process the rest of my tomatoes and make 2 other varieties of tomato sauce. I've gotten in the habit of harvesting my tomatoes when they just barely have any color. You can kind of see like on here. And then I put them on this tray and I let them ripen inside. And this really helps for a number of different reasons. It helps eliminate them from getting split or cracks from excessive moisture. We've been getting a lot of rain this year. And it also helps prevent any insects, particularly worms, from burrowing in. So you can see I have plenty of green ones. They will ripen over time. And then when I go to do a large canning project, I just come through and I pick out anything that's ripe, put them into their color-associated colander, and that way I am ready to make different colored sauces, taking advantage of all of the tomatoes that I have ripe right at this moment. To get started today, I'm going to make tomato sauce. And you can see I divide my tomatoes based on color, and this is my favorite variety of all time, cream sausage. You can buy these seeds from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds online or through their catalog. And you can see it's just a yellow Roma tomato, and it makes a delicious sweet flavored sauce. The process for making tomato paste is really easy. Wash your tomatoes, cut the tops off, put them into a food processor, and then heat them up stovetop. You can add whatever other flavorings you want, and ultimately use an immersion blender to give it the perfect texture. Okay, so my red sauces are ready, and what I've done is I've actually decided to can these into small neck pints because I have a lot of those jars, and I've just soaked them in my water bath so they're sterilized. So I'm going to pull those out. And using this handy magnetic thing, you get the lids out. And then the process for filling the jars is pretty simple. I'm going to start with my pre-made sauce. Get that off of the oven. And let's see. Oh, right here. The reason I'm using these pints, not only because I have a lot of them, but for spaghetti sauce, it's kind of nice because the small neck won't actually get in the way of you being able to pour it out. Whereas for things like pickles or okra or even candied jalapenos, that small neck makes it more difficult to access what's inside. And that you can see was like the perfect amount for 1 pint. You want to use this to measure And this is definitely safe. This is just a slightly bit below, but that's fine. I can have a little bit of an air pocket. And I'm just gonna get the lid on, and you can tighten that up. And then I'm gonna go through the process of getting all the rest of this. This is the sauce that I've just made. And then all of this will go into the water bath. I do mine, my tomato sauce for 18 minutes. It's a little longer than what's recommended in the ball canning jar book, but I think that it doesn't hurt to ever go a little longer. And in that process, I will continue going through and getting the rest of my canning stuff ready. So now that my red sauce is in the water bath, I've got 5 more minutes on that. I've got my white sauce heating up here. That will go into the round 2. I can get started on doing the rest of my canning, which is going to be pickled okra, candied jalapenos, and one final last round of pickles. For an easy, delicious recipe for pickles that can be canned, I have come up with this. It's kind of a hybrid of a bunch of different recipes that I found online, and it kind of checks all the boxes that pretty much everyone that sampled my pickles decided this is the pickle that they prefer. And it's not a complicated process at all. I've discovered that I do better with spears than I do with chips because I'm not packing them into the cans very well, and then I get this like bunch of liquid at the bottom after they've gone through the water bath. So I went ahead and cut my pickles into spears, and then I put them into ice water, like an ice water bath, and refrigerated that for about an hour. And now I'm gonna do this, and I'm not measuring, but I will post a recipe that actually has measurements for you. So far I've been pretty lucky in that when I do this, I kind of magically have been making the right amount. So I'm starting with white vinegar, and the recipe is actually half white vinegar, half water. So, you know, it's a fair amount of vinegar, and then I'm just gonna do equal part. And then I'm gonna do a couple of or maybe like 1 tablespoon of Morton's canning and pickling salt. And it's really important that you use pickling salt because other salts will actually discolor when you do the water bath. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna kind of shake some salt in. You don't need a ton of salt because the vinegar kind of provides that flavor. And then I'm using mustard seed. This obviously is from the garden, and I'm just kind of doing a handful. And then turmeric, that actually adds this really dynamic color and a delicious flavor. Celery seed, kind of a lot of celery seed, and I like cumin. So this is something that I've added that wasn't in the traditional recipes. You don't need a lot, but you know, a little. Now I'm gonna put this on the stove and bring it to a boil. And in the meantime, I'm gonna chop up some garlic and onions, and I'm gonna add that to this brine. And then once this is boiling, I will be able to fill jars with my cucumber spears and ladle the boiling moisture into the boiling brine into the can, and then it goes into the water bath for 15, or I'm going to do everything at 18 minutes. So stay tuned for my progress. It's a really easy process. OMG, I forgot like one of the really important ingredients, which is an outrageous amount of sugar. I didn't think that I liked sweet pickles, but this recipe, I don't know, the sweetness is pretty delicious. So I am just going to pour in more sugar than you think would ever be necessary for anything you ever made. Promise you, you won't regret it. So you can see I've got my pickle spears into 4 quarts, and I'm just waiting for the brine to boil so I can pour it in. And then my next batch into the water bath will be the cream sausage tomato sauce and these quarts of pickles. So the cream sausage tomato sauce, the pickles, and 1 quart of okra are in the water bath. You see, I didn't quite have room for this one, so this is going to go into the next batch. And I have leftover brine from the pickles. That's actually what I used for the okra. And I've tasted it, it's delicious. It's just a little bit sweet, a little bit salty, and honestly, I think the really magic ingredient in all of that is celery seed. So now my next process is to get busy making the candied jalapenos. And what I have here is a mix of white vinegar and an outrageous amount of white sugar. And I mean outrageous, like more sugar than you would ever rationally use. I'm going to go ahead and put it on medium. I'm going to go ahead and pour some more sugar in. The thing with this is the sugar is what balances the spiciness. So you don't have to be so exact about getting every single seed out of the jalapeno, because the sugar will make it so that you can eat these without having your mouth catch on fire. Now, another thing about prepping the jalapeno peppers, I highly recommend getting a pepper quarter. I bought this at Sur La Table, and it's just a tool that is not something I use every day, but when I need it, it is so helpful. It really makes the de-seeding process so much easier. One other really important piece of advice when making candied jalapenos is wear gloves. I'm giving you this advice from experience. There is nothing more painful than having jalapeno juice go into your eyes or frankly any other part of your body. So always wear gloves. So once you have all of your jalapenos cored and sliced, you want to put them into your vinegar bath and bring it to a boil. I am just getting started with jalapenos and okra, so I'll be harvesting both of those well into November. So I might only get like 2 jars today of each of those, but in the coming months, I should be able to do, massive amounts of canning. And then you just start to ladle them into your jars. So I've started with my first batch. I have 1 more batch to add to this. I'm just gonna get started. Now remember, this is full of sugar, so it's super, super sticky. So that's why I have this towel down, and I always do everything relatively carefully because it's a mess to clean up. There's just no denying the mess factor. The final step in today's marathon canning expedition in the kitchen is to treat myself to a pina colada. And I do really simple pina coladas. I actually just do fresh pineapple, coconut rum, ice, and a splash of Rose's grenadine syrup. Now for traditional, you would add cream of coconut, the Coco Lopez. I happen to think this makes it a little too sweet and it's a lot of additional calories. So I skip it for my servings of pina colada. So I'm gonna whip this up, because remember, a watched pot never boils. So while I'm waiting for the final round of jalapenos to boil in the brine, I'm gonna treat myself to a Sunday delicious drink so I can go outside and have a soak in my feed tank.